It's hard enough to concentrate in school when you're a kid, between hormones, homework, and the mystery meat in the cafeteria. But for millions of students around the world, there's another, less visible obstacle to learning that's floating right outside the classroom window: air pollution. The very air children breathe during the school day may be dulling their cognitive edge, sabotaging their academic progress, and altering their brain development in ways that no standardized test will ever account for. This isn't just an issue for a few industrial neighborhoods. Across cities worldwide, many schools are located alarmingly close to major roads, highways, bus depots, or industrial corridors, all hotspots for airborne pollutants like nitrogen dioxide, NO2, ozone, carbon monoxide, and PM2.5, fine particulate matter small enough to penetrate lung tissue and enter the bloodstream. Children are especially vulnerable to these toxins. Their lungs are still developing, they breathe more rapidly than adults, and their blood-brain barrier, the biological firewall that protects the brain from harmful substances, is not yet fully mature. The result? A quiet crisis playing out in classrooms: reduced attention span, impaired working memory, lower test scores, and disrupted emotional regulation. Not because kids are lazy or underprepared, but because the air around them is biochemically working against their brains. Multiple studies have confirmed this grim trend. A landmark study from the Harvard School of Public Health found that even short-term spikes in air pollution around schools correlated with worse performance on math and reading tests. Another study in California showed that schools located within 500 feet of a major roadway, often in lower-income neighborhoods, reported significantly lower standardized test scores and higher rates of behavioral issues. In Barcelona, researchers found that children attending schools with higher pollution levels showed slower cognitive development over the school year compared to peers in greener, cleaner environments. Their working memory, critical for tasks like reading comprehension and problem-solving, developed 20% more slowly. These aren't minor differences. These are the kinds of cognitive delays that can shape a student's entire academic trajectory and, ultimately, their future. And it's not just during school hours. Air pollution's effects can follow students home. Poor air quality has been linked to sleep disruption, increased anxiety, and reduced executive function, all of which make learning harder the next day. For children with asthma or other chronic respiratory issues, which pollution both causes and worsens, absenteeism becomes a recurring problem. Missed school days, coupled with foggy cognition when present, create an unfair and invisible disadvantage, especially for kids who are already marginalized. What's most disturbing is how predictable all of this is. We've long known that kids living near highways or in polluted neighborhoods are at greater risk of lower academic performance. Yet school zoning laws, urban planning shortcuts, and underfunded school districts continue to place educational institutions right next to pollution hotspots. It's like designing a gym next to a donut factory and wondering why no one's getting healthier. And yes, socioeconomics plays a massive role. Wealthier families are more likely to send their children to schools in low-pollution areas, either because they can afford private education, live in cleaner districts, or both. Meanwhile, lower-income students are often concentrated in schools exposed to the worst air, surrounded by traffic, lacking green space, and without the budget for upgraded HVAC systems or air filtration. In other words, we are literally letting pollution widen the education gap, one breath at a time. The long-term consequences are staggering. Children growing up with chronic exposure to air pollution are not only at risk of underperforming in school, they are more likely to experience reduced IQ, attention deficits, and even signs of neuroinflammation in adolescence and early adulthood. What starts as slightly lower test scores can compound into reduced college access, lower earnings, and lifelong disadvantage, all because of where a school was built or how traffic flows nearby. So, what can be done? A lot, but we have to stop treating clean air as a luxury and start treating it as an educational necessity. Simple interventions like planting trees around schools, retrofitting buildings with high-efficiency air filters, rerouting traffic away from school zones during peak hours, or even rescheduling outdoor activities to avoid pollution spikes can help. Some cities have begun installing air quality sensors near schools and adjusting policies in real time. But these measures are still the exception, not the rule. Until we confront this head-on, we'll continue asking kids to compete on an uneven playing field, grading them as if all they need to succeed is effort, when the air they breathe may be robbing them of mental clarity before the first bell even rings. We wouldn't accept contaminated water in school drinking fountains. We wouldn't tolerate open electrical wires in the classroom. But somehow, we're okay with kids breathing neurotoxic air while trying to learn algebra. If education is the great equalizer, then clean air must be part of the curriculum. Otherwise, we're just testing how well children can perform under biological sabotage and calling it meritocracy.